Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is me, Jonathan Alexander. I'm here to host our show, Life, Laughter, Happiness. I also here today have my co-host, Kelly. Are you there, Kelly?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, and I also have
Hi.
my other co-host, Barbara. Are you there, Barbara?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Barbara.
Now, Barbara, being that this is special guest night, why don't you introduce your guest?
Okay, I would be happy to. Tonight we have our special guest, Terry Grant of Offbeat and Unique. Guess what? Vape shop, people. We're here to talk about vaping and all of the myths and what's going on out there. It's crazy, and it is an epidemic. And Terry, he is so knowledgeable about it. He's been in the vape business for a long time, and he's very successful with the best vape shop I've ever seen, by the way, and my really good friend. And I asked him to come on the show tonight to let's hear the truth, because I know there is no real proof. And these findings that they say these people have these lung problems from vaping, well, what are the facts behind that, though? Does anybody even ask about that at all? No, they just believe whatever they hear the newscaster saying, and they get in this huge uproar, this huge emergency situation, and they're not really looking deeper. And you know what? This is causing people to lose maybe their business and their home, and it's going to affect a lot of people, and it needs to stop. People, we need to band together, and I am a vapor. I love it. It is so enjoyable to me, and you know, it's a concern. It's a huge concern for a lot of us out there. So please welcome Terry to the show. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Barbara.
He's actually sitting right here with me, and he drove all the way from Arizona to do the show.
Wow.
So thank you so much. Yes.
Yes, Terry.
Yeah.
Go, Terry.
How you doing, Jonathan? How you doing, Kelly?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
So we might as well just say what's going on right now, which is a wonderful thing. Terry brought this huge bag of vape products for me. I have now my finished dot mod, which is so superior and beautiful. I love it. It's so gorgeous, and it brings me happiness. Plus all these flavors and these wonderful other little smaller feminine devices that I could use discreetly. It kind of sounds funny. That's the kind of a sexy thing. But anyway, I just get excited about it. And you know what? I want to expose. We're here today to expose. Basically, it's really unfair. I'm asking myself, why? This is so unfair. And you know what? It boils down to one thing, which we'll get to a little bit later. But I want to ask Terry, how long have you vaped?
I vaped for a little over 6 years now.
And how is it? Doing anything to your body, or how are you feeling? What did you do, though, before you started vaping?
I was a 25-year smoker, and I got to the point where I literally tried everything on the market, from patches to the gum to Chantix, hypnotism, acupuncture, you name it, and none of those products seemed to help with the addiction of nicotine.
And so, did you own a vape shop before you made the decision? I mean, how did you hear about it, and why did you want to quit smoking so badly? Because you knew
I felt like crap. I couldn't breathe. I was winded just running up a flight of stairs. I love working out. I love playing basketball, racquetball, but it's a lot of exertion, and I couldn't hardly breathe when I would play. So.
And you were young, and you didn't need to be feeling like this. So, but you were addicted. So when you're addicted, it's just so hard.
Right.
So, as I see it, we're given this like amazing new product that could like get us away from something that's actually killing us. And now this, like now these bans and these people in an uproar because, okay, I just want to know, it came out in the news, there were like a few people that ended up in the hospital with some lung problems, and they said they were vapors. So what backs that up to have people announce it on the news that vaping is now worse than cigarettes? Like, how'd that happen so quickly?
Well, I don't think there's enough time on this show to describe how the whole thing happened, but what it boils down to is there's some people out there with the marijuana getting more and more recreational nowadays. There's a lot of people out on the black market that want to make some extra money, so they've come out with these little cartomizers that actually contain a liquid that you can vape. So what they did was they added something called vitamin E acetate. And if you've ever taken a vitamin E pill, the little football-shaped gel cap type pills, the fluid in it is both vitamin E, but it's an oil inside of it. Mm-hmm. And that oil is what they've put inside of these cartridges. And when you vape it, it will vaporize, but then it turns into a vapor. But then once it gets into your lungs, it turns back into a fat or like an oil, which coats the inside of your lungs. And actually about 18 people have died from this nationwide.
Wow.
And about 1,000 people have got seriously ill to the point where they had to be on ventilators. The doctors couldn't figure out what it was. Well, they knew pretty quickly what it was when they started interviewing these people, the ones that were sick, of course, and they found out that they were getting THC cartridges. Then they found out they were getting black market ones. Well, they've dug into this pretty deep, and in every account, it's all due to the THC cartridges. But there's a lot going around right now about the government back in 1998 settled with Big Tobacco on what they call the Master Settlement Agreement. And that was to the tune of over $200 billion to reimburse the states for smoking-related diseases and illnesses and things along the line like chemotherapy and radiation, which chemotherapy is about $100,000 a month per person for that treatment.
Wow.
And when the state had to cover that, they were absorbing these costs. Well, they went after Big Tobacco saying, hey, somebody's got to pay for this, and you guys are the ones that are causing the addictiveness of the cigarettes. So in the wonderful wisdom of our government, they negotiated a deal with them for over $200 billion, but it was going to be paid out over 25 years. States like California, New York, Illinois, Ohio, all said that they wanted to take 100% of it. So there were these banks that came and said, we'll front you the money if you take out bonds to guarantee that we'll get this money in the future with interest. Well, $3 billion was put up front back in 1998 with the promise of paying them back $64 billion in return. That's a pretty good rate on return for an investment. So with this going on, and it was also based on current tobacco sales. With tobacco sales dropping and declining rapidly because of e-cigarettes are on the rise, and tobacco smoking is starting to come way down. Not as many cigarettes were being sold, so the states come up short on paying these bonds back, and they're going to default on these bonds. So then they come up with this brilliant idea about we're trying to addict the youth, and by addicting the youth, that's something that hits home with everybody. I mean, there isn't a single vape shop that I know out there that wants the kids to do this. Everybody thinks that the Big Tobacco started this revolutionary technology to supplement or to add to their cigarette sales, and Big Tobacco had nothing to do with it. It was little shops that, like mine, that I started many years ago, that came out with these flavors and new technology and started improving the technology. And the Big Tobacco and Pharma, they were like, this is just a fad, it'll go away. But once it started hitting $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion, and this year is supposed to be $17 billion in the vape market, the big tobacco companies are saying, hey, this is getting out of control. And they have a lot of control with our government. And they basically told them, do what you got to do to shut this down. Now, youth smoking has declined too, only because some of the kids are trading it out for the vape side of it. And if you're going to do one or the other at that age, I'm talking like 16, 17, 18 years old, especially like 18, I would think that the government would much rather have them vaping than smoking just because of all the illnesses. But again, this goes back to money. They're not having the cigarette sales. They don't have the cigarette sales. They can't pay the bonds back. If they default on these bonds, then they won't be able to get low interest loans for adding new schools, adding new freeways, what have you. So I could go on and on and on about this, but that's what it boils down to is the fact that it's all about the money.
All about the money and the greed, and that's so sad because there's a lot of people that they could ruin lives. What, Johnny?
I have a question. Well, it's sort of funny. I brought this up with you the other day, and it seems like what you're describing is happening is the equivalent of this. I was talking to my father about this today. I was like, it's sort of funny. When I go and I get my flu shot, I don't think anything of it. I'm not afraid of it. I just sit down. I know that the person who's putting the needle in me knows what they're doing, and there's nothing bad in me going in me. But what I'm trying to say is that now if I was to walk by a dark alley and somebody were to walk up to me and go, "Come here, do you want a flu shot?" Well, I wouldn't get it from I guess the point I'm trying to get at here is that I think that what you're saying is also the equivalent of sometimes I've had chargers go out on my iPhone, and I've had to buy other chargers. And if you call Apple, the first thing they'll ask you is where'd you buy the charger from? Because they'll say, oh, do you buy it from a third-party vendor? And I think that sounds like what you're saying is that because these people aren't buying it from the stores, they're buying it on the street or on the black market, which means it's not made the way it's supposed to be made. And is that kind of what you're saying is happening?
Yes, kind of. I mean, they have black market cigarettes. There's China has, duplicated Marlboro cigarettes right down to the packaging and everything. But it's made in China and it's made with inferior products. So if you think about it, the corner drug dealer out there, do you think that he goes and has this stuff tested for metals and pesticides and what have you? They don't test any of that. If you go to a dispensary and buy the product, that all has to be passed through the third-party testing and prove that it doesn't have any of these contaminants that's going to cause harm. Well, then you take these guys that
license to open up a business. You can't just say, I'm going to open up a store and I'm going to. You understand, a million things have to happen, right?
Correct. And here's the thing, that now they're trying to put all these bans in place to discourage people from vaping and go back to smoking so that they get the higher cigarette sales and they can pay these bonds back. They don't give a crap about the 480,000 people that die every year, which equates to about 1,300 people a day. And if you think about the big, everybody and how up in arms they were that 3,000 people died during 9/11, okay? And that's a horrible loss. But 1,300 people a day are dying. So that's 2.5 days is like a 9/11 happening every 2.5 days.
Oh, wow.
You would think that people would be banning the cigarettes and going after the big tobacco company when not a single death, okay? And I say this kind of in a roundabout way, but not a single death has happened from vaping. There have been people that died, but if vaping is used the way that it was intended to be used, not a single death has happened. So, and this has been around for about 10 years now, since about 2007, about a dozen years actually. And if you look back at the history of the e-cigarette, I actually dug up the original patent and I have it plastered all over one of my walls. It was designed and put in for application for a patent in 1963 and granted in 1965. Okay, so this stuff has been around for over 50 years. But Big Tobacco hit it. They said that it wouldn't ever come to be, so the patent kind of died off. So, and then some guy named Han Lick in 2003 discovered this pattern, put new technology with it, and then as he was starting to promote it, it was about the year 2007 is when it really started to take off. But again, the first master settlement, for the master settlement agreement, the first payment was coming due in 2009, and the government was having a hard time then. And now 10 years has passed, and that's why at the end of this year, their next round of payments are coming due. So they have 3 months basically to try to get everybody off of vaping, get everybody back onto smoking, raise a bunch of money so they don't default on these loans. But about 2 years ago, they did a survey, this group called CASA, and it's the Consumer Advocacy for Smoking Alternatives. And they did a survey of 70,000 people, and they found that 89% of the people like the fruity, desserty type flavors, 8% like the tobacco flavor, like a cigarette, and like about 4% like the menthol. So what does the government do? They say they're going to ban all of the fruity and desserty flavors, which they know is the majority of the people that are vaping, in order to steer them back to smoking, because they're going to allow the tobacco flavor. And what's weird about that is it's the same ingredients in a tobacco vape than it is in a fruity vape, other than the actual flavoring portion of it, which is cherry versus tobacco or bubble gum or whatever the case is. So if they were truly serious about saving people, they would ban the cigarettes, but it's all about the money.
Yes, and you know what? I like the fruity flavors. I like the dessert flavors. And so what do you see is going to happen? Because when I saw that they were going to do the ban on California, I'm nervous, because what am I going to do if I can't get my fruity flavors that I love, that make me feel good throughout my day? And you know what? I don't just do this because otherwise I would smoke cigarettes. I don't think that would be the case with me. I just enjoy it. Plus, it curbs my appetite. Nobody really talks about that. I love that. You know, I don't go and just eat a dessert. I just bake. And so tell me, what do you think, in your opinion, Terry, is going to happen? How do you see this all unfold?
Well, I don't know. We could probably ask Karen that question. She probably knows.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I was looking at it like, let's just like try to look at it in the positive way, to where we're going to get new ideas and things that we talked about that we can't talk about because maybe we haven't patented them yet.
Right.
That could happen. So we're staying positive. But there are vape shops now that are really suffering. And I see on the news, these men travel a long way to be heard in court. Is there any, are they making any headway with this?
Well, New York, the governor there, Andrew Cuomo, put a emergency ban in, and by executive order. Okay, so he's kind of abusing his power as governor to put this emergency ban in. New York is one of the states that took 100% of the tobacco settlement, and California and New York are the two that are hurting the worst. So he put an emergency ban by executive order in, and then just 2 days ago, a group called the VTA, which is the Vapor Technology Association, they're an advocacy group, went in and filed a hearing with the New York Supreme Court to lift this ban. And they convinced 4 judges that this was out of line, and they did lift the ban until the 18th of this month, until it can go to court and be heard properly, instead of a governor just coming right out and saying that he wants it banned now. And personally, after doing a little bit of digging, I found out that the governor, Andrew Cuomo, has invested in a product that is going through FDA approval right now. So he has a major investment in a new vape product that will be coming out soon. And you want to talk about hypocrisy, you know, he's a hypocrite. On one side, he's saying that this is an emergency ban, but on the other side, once this passes FDA approval, then he's already swept the whole competition out of the way. And now his product, not just his product, but one that he's invested in, is just going to sail through and be one of the only products on the market.
Oh, my gosh. What do you think we could do out there to expose what's going on more? I mean, we're doing the show today, but what could we do?
Well, these advocacy groups are bringing a lot of this to light. They're having, a meeting with congressmen, senators. They're going and approaching Trump about this. The FDA, the CDC, the NIH, all these health institutes are all a part of this whole thing. And not only that, we're also talking about the Lung Association, the Cancer Society, the Heart Association. They're all behind this as well. And it's all just the big government telling these folks, if you like your cushy jobs and you want to keep them around, then let's get on board with banning this vape thing so we can keep people sick by allowing them to continue smoking.
Like what they tell the teacher who we talked to yesterday.
Yes, exactly. And I know this sounds like a big conspiracy theory, but there's more than enough proof about this stuff out there. So it's just it's a huge plot to keep big tobacco around. They're powerful. They're extremely powerful. Worldwide tobacco sales equate to $800 billion a year. And then just in the U.S., $300 billion a year are spent on medically related illnesses because of smoking.
Is it the biggest business?
It's huge. I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's huge. We're talking $800 billion.
And they are just trying to stop the vaping no matter what. I just don't think that they're going to be able to.
There's a lot of money in chemotherapy and radiation and the drugs that they make, like Chantix and Wellbutrin and heart medications and you name it. I mean, it's big money. And it's not just big tobacco, it's pharma as well. Big pharmaceutical companies, Johnson & Johnson and all those companies like that, they rely heavily on this money. And now because vaping is getting so popular, they want to say that the youth is the real reason, but the other reason is now this illicit THC cartridges that they say vaping deaths.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with vaping e-liquid.
No. And, you at your shop, since I've been coming before all this happened, you promote and have workshops for people and about safe vaping. And you even told me a lot about safe vaping and told me that don't go buy any vape juice, liquid e-juice that somebody is mixing themselves in a back room because, yes, that can be bad, very bad for you. So how do we know that we're vaping safe?
Well, you need to ask questions. You need to ask questions about where it's made. Is it made in a clean room, in a lab-type environment? Are people, wearing masks and hairnets?
Well, like these products that you brought me, instead of the product that has their sticker label on it that some lady said, well, I like lemon cookies. Can you mix this one up for me? So are you suggesting do not buy those?
That and online sales. A lot of people buy this stuff from China. There's no telling what's in that stuff. There's no regulation whatsoever. But the stuff that we go through, the products that I carry in my shop, we actually go to great extents to do the due diligence to make sure that they are being created in the right labs, using the right ingredients. The nicotine levels are what they say that they are. So if it says zero nicotine, there is absolutely no nicotine in it. And that's what we hope to kind of wean people down to. And it is our mission, basically, to get people off of cigarettes and get them off of vape, too. But they're adults. They can make their own choices. But if they want to get off of it altogether, we have programs in place that help them achieve that.
And also at your shop, Offbeat and Unique, it's a wellness shop. So you offer other things like CBD oil. And tell us some of the great things that that's doing for people with the cancer, like helping them with pain. And is it curing?
They have some initial studies that show that it does kill cancer cells, but it's kind of too early in the game to make that claim. But I know it helps massively with PTSD, with anxiety, with migraine headaches, with epileptic seizures. My granddaughter has epileptic seizures, and since she started taking CBD, her epileptic seizures have decreased by 80%, and the way that it happens is 80% less as far as the trauma that she experiences during an epileptic seizure is declined significantly. So there's a lot of promise in this and stuff they haven't even figured out yet. But our bodies have what's called an endocannabinoid system, and you have what they call a CB1 and CB2 receptors in your body that the CBD actually turns on, and it spurs a lot of stuff from. I mean, they're even talking about that CBD destroys the protein that causes Alzheimer's disease. There was a big article that just came out about that in a long-term study. So, I mean, there's all kinds of benefits to this that they haven't even discovered yet. And it's a 100% natural product. It's not a synthetic product that's created in a test tube somewhere. So,
and it's easy to take.
Very easy. You can take it as a tincture, as a capsule, as a suppository, as a
cream.
You can eat the stuff.
Exfoliation.
Absolutely. Lotions. It's great for pain management. There's a lot of positives to CBD that they haven't even scratched the surface with yet.
Wow,
and there's no high to it either. So it's not the psychoactive portion, the THC portion. It's the non-psychoactive side. So.
And thank you for bringing me a bottle of that. And I put some under my tongue, and my last tip that was pulled, it almost feels like it's not there. I mean, it's not bothering me. So, and also stuttering, migraine. I mean, so many things. So it's all about wellness, and it's, to me, very, very sad what's happening, because this was helping so many people. Like, I love at your shop where you have so many people's signatures on the wall, and every signature is a person who quit cigarettes, and that's a lot of people.
We've helped thousands of people completely quit cigarettes, and probably a few thousand that have put down vape as well. So it's something that we're very, very passionate about. People come in every day thanking us, and not just from the vaping side of it, but also from the CBD side. We have an oxygen bar, which kind of helps with the repair of the lungs. You can use it for post and pre-workouts because you deplete a lot of oxygen when you do a lot of hardcore serious workouts.
We used to do that when I was a flight attendant. If we had hangovers.
And it works for that as well.
Yeah.
It does. It works great for headaches, for all different kinds of things. But it's oxygenating the blood. And the oxygen we breathe on a regular basis is about 21% oxygen. This is anywhere from 92 to 95% oxygen that you get for a short period of time. So it helps to revitalize your blood cells with oxygen.
But you have to really know the laws, because if somebody's ordering online from your shop, you have to know what states you can mail it to. Right? Are those laws really strict?
Oh, absolutely. They're not playing around. As a matter of fact, Michigan put a permanent ban on all vape stuff, and they have gone through with the police department, and they're inspecting shops. And for anybody selling any kind of vape product whatsoever, it's a $250 fine and up to 6 months in jail for each occurrence of it. It's absolutely ludicrous.
I think Kelly just posted that in the chat. She posted that in our chat.
Yeah,
right, Kelly?
I thought that was just the flavored, but it's all of it now.
Yeah, and in some states they're actually making it to where if you get caught with a vape, even as an adult, you can be fined and or go to jail just for vaping.
That's ridiculous.
Have they arrested anybody yet?
No, not yet. What's that?
That's ridiculous, she said.
Yes, I mean, and you get this, in Pennsylvania, they're trying to put a ban on all flavors, okay? But then the very next day that the governor announced that they're going to ban all flavors, they came out and said, well, the lieutenant governor has gone around for the last 90 days interviewing all of the residents of the state of Pennsylvania and getting their thoughts about how they felt about recreational marijuana. And he came back with this, 89% approval that the general public is all for recreational use of marijuana. So he thinks that he's going to put an enactment in now to bring on recreational marijuana. You can't have the vape, but you can smoke weed all you want. So and to be honest, well, and I don't have a problem with that so much. I mean, I think that adults should be able to have the choice. But by the same token, vape is right along there, and it's so much safer. I mean, the Royal College of Physicians, which is a group of some of the smartest physicians in the world, back in 1963, told our Surgeon General, smoking is causing cancer. And the Surgeon General said, blah. And then so they kept it. And about 1965, the Surgeon General came out with their warning that they now put on cigarette packs saying smoking causes cancer. So the Royal College of Physicians opened their eyes to that. The same group of folks, which is new doctors obviously, came out and said that conservatively, vaping was 95% safer than smoking. Now, I get this question every single day. Is vaping safe? It is not safe, okay? But it is on the magnitude of 5% of the harm that cigarettes cause. So for somebody that never smoked before, that started vaping, there's nothing safe about it. You will cause a little bit of harm, but you're causing a 5% of what cigarettes do to you. So if there was a smoker that smoked, like my oldest customer is 92 years old, started smoking when he was 12. He smoked for 80 years. He started vaping, and within 3 years, he was breathing better. He actually started driving down to my shop at 93 years old. He was driving his Jaguar down there, breathing better, loving life. So it made a huge difference in his life in a short period of time. Even when I started vaping, I noticed the effects within a week.
Yes.
And within probably a month, I breathed so much better that I started playing sports, racquetball and basketball, and started doing these highly aerobic type sports. and didn't feel the effects that I'd felt for 20 some odd years prior to that.
And your skin looks good, and you're happy.
I feel better, healthier all the way around since I started vaping. But it's just sad that the government has plugged into this, into people's minds. And also, you to ask any school teachers, any public officials, they think that smoking is as bad. I mean, vaping is as bad or worse than smoking because of all of this crap that's going on in the media. Last year it was 57%. This year it's 65% of the general population think that vaping is worse for you than smoking.
And they're not counting it right. You're saying that the statistics aren't even right. They're numbers, because if a teenager just tries just one little vape, just to try it, they count that.
Exactly. So they're claiming now that 5 million children under the age of 18 are vaping on a regular basis, and that's where they're claiming this epidemic. And now I could see 5 million kids that have tried it, maybe just out of curiosity, maybe took a little puff, but I honestly believe that less than, way less than 10% use it on a regular.
Yeah.
I bet, if they got that excited about how many kids have tried alcohol, they'd be doing a lot more, banning of alcohol, but they've never even tried doing that since Prohibition. They're not even doing anything about that, and alcohol ads are everywhere. They're not even trying.
Yeah, cigarettes. I was watching a special on Netflix the other night where in Seattle they set up the first safe haven place where people could go and safely inject heroin under the watchful eye of a doctor. Now, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that whole thing, because it's almost telling them it's okay to do it. But so many people die from heroin, and it's something that triggers in the brain and causes the lungs to shut down, and they just stop breathing. But they'll allow these people to come there, shoot up their heroin, and they have somebody monitoring them. So if they need life support, there's somebody to give it to them right then and there. But the government's paying for this, And then here we got some kind of product like vaping that is saving lives. It is making people feel better. It's driving them away from the cigarettes. I can't remember. I think it was 650 billion cigarette butts get thrown out into the general population every single day, tossed into the street, tossed into fields, beaches, and that's got plastic in it as well. And it's all kinds of garbage in a cigarette butt, not to mention all of the nicotine that it's absorbed.
Wow, but it is all about greed and money, because, why don't they just say, we have a warning label on the e-liquid, just like cigarettes do, but they're not banning cigarettes. It's just so obvious that this is about money. So we just have to keep telling the story and raising awareness, which we are. Kelly, I wanted to ask you, since you live in Michigan, do you know anybody who vapes?
I don't personally, but I've seen people. But it's like Brian knows a lot of people that vape, but it seems to be like a lot of, like, I noticed like the polarity of it. Like the people that I see walking down the street that seem to have, I don't like to draw attention to this, sort of thing or stereotype, but people that seem to have, that are on the low income side, seem to have cigarettes, and because they're cheaper, and then, or they roll their own or whatever, and then the people like middle to higher income tend to vape. So, that's what I see, so it kind of depends on what side of town that you're on. And a lot of my friends personally that I have tend not to smoke at all, but that's just, the demographic that I'm in, So, but, my coworkers, I don't really pay attention to what they're doing, but I do know some of them take smoke breaks, but, I've never been a smoker, so, that's why I don't really pay attention. But
so that's interesting. That is interesting, because we were talking about the price of cigarette smoking versus vaping before the show started, and a pack of cigarettes a day times 10 times 30, that's $300 a month. And to start up with your whole vape, that could be not so expensive or very expensive. It depends on what you choose to start with. But the actual e-liquid, tell us about the difference in the spending of vaping once you get your vape per month with just the e-liquid. Terry, tell us about that.
Well, like Barbara was saying, you can spend $200 to $300 a month for a single pack a day smoker, depending on where you live in the country, just for cigarettes. And that's the one pack a day. And you take that time, or if somebody's a 2-pack a day smoker, you just do the math. But for e-liquid, once you get past the initial expense of the device, which can range anywhere from $20 up to a couple $100, depending on the quality. But on a maintenance or routine basis, from that point on, you spend $40 to $50 a month on e-liquid and coils, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cost savings, not only just from the initial product side of it, but from a health perspective too. So that's we're talking about the money.
Yeah, that boils down back to the money thing, because look at how much, say somebody quits smoking cigarettes and starts vaping, how much money they just lost. So it is about the money. It just needs to be exposed over and over again. It's just obvious. It's just so unfair. What do you guys think about it? I know you're not smokers and you're not vapors. Do you care about what's going on?
The reason I like that we're doing this is because I don't have any interest either way. It doesn't benefit me whether or not, because I don't smoke and I have no plans to vape, but I do think it makes sense to try to get the facts out, and I'm sure that Terry will agree with me on this. I think that it's like I don't have any interest in it. And I think that what we need to do, because there are some people, and the only reason I'm saying this is I'm just saying this is what people might be thinking. They might be thinking that Terry's logic is being manipulated by the chemicals of the vape, so he's not paying attention to what's actually happening, But see, here's the thing. I don't have any interest either way. So I just want to get the facts out. If the facts are that it's 95% healthier, then it's 95% healthier. You see what I'm saying? I have nothing to gain either way. So if I find out that it's 95% health, you understand what I'm saying, Terry? There's no agenda on my end. You're not going to, and I think that's probably why I think I'm more or less the person to do it, because I can be unbiased. That's why I like the idea that I'm looking into this as well as Kelly, because we have no bias. We have nothing to gain either way.
Yeah, I kind of do. I lost my mom to lung cancer, and when I was living at home, it's kind of I was angry because my parents both smoked in the house, and I felt like I was trapped in there with them, and I ended up having ear, nose, and throat infections more than the average kid, and I had, I ended up having asthma as a result, and, it's like... So
because of secondhand smoke, Kelly, is that what you said?
Yeah, and I was angry because of it, and, and it's completely preventable. And, I would confront my mom about it, and she's like, well, if you don't like it, move out. And, of course, you're a kid, you can't do that. And she's like, well, this is my house. I can smoke in it if I want to. Well, okay, but it's like there's health ramifications. And I was kind of upset because I was like, well, do you love that more than you love me? Which is kind of a stupid thing to say. But when you're a kid, you kind of say stupid things. But, and that's kind of beside the point because, but my whole thing is that, man, I wish they'd had this when I was growing up because, maybe my mom would have actually been able to do this instead, and it would have caused a whole lot less issues, and maybe she would have been able to quit before she would have gotten
I was going
sick.
to say something. I was going to say something else. It goes back to what we were saying, and I was telling this to my father because me and him in a conversation, we are all guilty of this. I mean, we pick something because the pleasure overweighs our logic. Like I every time my mom goes to the grocery store, she buys me an entire big bag of oranges, and I eat them in a day. And I drink, she'll buy 2 big containers of orange juice, and I eat them both and drink them both in a day. Now, the thing is that my view on it is that Mom worries about me getting diabetes from all the sugar, but then again, I would rather do that than smoke. You see what I'm saying? I mean, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that we all are guilty of that. I mean, we eat a Big Mac from McDonald's, you're a Whopper. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I know how bad that is, or can be, but we all know that it can overtake our logic. And I was thinking, that we need to look at the facts, the pure facts, and I think that I went and I started asking questions like, what proof do you have that it's dangerous? What proof do you have that it's safe? And I noticed that when it came time to the ones that people were dangerous, they just said it's not. The only one that argued that it was safe is that they said that the study that proved that it wasn't safe was paid off by the vapors. That's the only argument that I've ever heard. I mean, if you want to address that, Terry, you can.
Well, I don't have to fight that. The Royal College of Physicians, for everybody that's listening out there, do a search on Google of Royal College of Physicians, or RCP, and electronic cigarettes. I mean, they did a 2-year study on this, down to the chemical analysis of what came out, the secondhand portion of it that came out. And Kelly, and to your comment, about your parents with secondhand smoke. Both my parents, all my aunts and uncles, grandparents, everybody smoked. My youngest brother was born premature because my mom smoked while she was pregnant. As a matter of fact, while she was pregnant with me, she used to put the ashtray on her belly and say, "Oh, how cute! Look, he's kicking the ashtray as she's smoking." But that was back in the '60s, and they didn't have this knowledge back then. This is when Surgeon General first came out with it. So, but the secondhand smoke it continues to be a problem to this day. Parents think that if they just roll down the window and blow the smoke out the window of the car, or they blow it out the front door, that it's enough. But it is not. It is an absolute. Secondhand smoke is actually more dangerous than smoking, because when you inhale it, you're inhaling it through a filter. So that's taken a lot of it out. Where secondhand smoke is burning off the end of the cigarette that's unfiltered. So that's actually more dangerous for you. When it comes to vape, though, they've proven that it's minimal. It's not even registering hardly as far as the amount of chemicals that come out of a vape after you exhale it. So the amount of nicotine.
I have another. Sorry, go on.
And it smells better. You don't walk around smelling gross, and you're not offending friends, and so it's.
But it's like anything else. It has to be done in moderation and in respect, because not everybody likes the smell of blueberries. I don't like the smell of heavy perfume. Okay, like a woman that wears a ton of perfume, it'll give me a headache. And then there's people that that smoke pot and they don't like the smell of marijuana. Okay, so I mean, and you get on an elevator and somebody flatulates. I mean, who enjoys that? So I mean, yes, everybody has their
flatulent flavored vaping. That would be something.
Exactly.
Leave it to you to bring that up. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because when this all came out and I was in the car with a friend, and I always vape, they don't vape, and they've never cared, and the crowd is billowing and they don't care. Now I was thinking, are they going to care now? Are they going to think that I'm harming them by having second-hand vape molecules? No.
Zero.
But that did go through my mind. And also, walking around town, I am the spokesmodel for Terry's shop, Offbeat and Unique. And, I feel like, should I go out and still do my vaping videos and have people think I am irresponsible? I don't think so. And you know what? I would like to make a point. If I thought and I had proof that vaping was going to kill me, I wouldn't do it. Right. I wouldn't. So, okay. I just wanted to say that.
Well, I have
one other thing.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm sorry. One other thing too. Somebody say a name of who goes.
Whose turn?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Terry. I really am. It was just going to be something that I read. You go on. Okay.
Well, mine's really quick. When I drove out here from Arizona, I came into the Los Angeles area, and before I even got anywhere close to town, traffic came to a stop on the freeways, which I can't stand driving in this area because of the traffic. But I sat on the freeway for almost 3.5 hours in just inching along, and the amount of exhaust that I breathed during that time, that 3 hours of sitting in traffic. And think about this. This is something that people do on a daily basis around here, especially. They're sitting in all this traffic, and you don't have HEPA filtration or anything going on in your car. I got the worst headache from the carbon monoxide and all these gases coming off of these cars. And California's worried about vaping when they're killing people sitting out there in these traffic jams.
You know what they'll probably say is one of these people who is getting a lung condition from sitting in that traffic goes to the hospital, and they'll ask them, do you vape?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and that's going to be another hit against vaping right there. And it's just really is, like Kelly said, ridiculous. So,
Anyways.
it's crazy.
Well, what I was going to say is that I think other people have argued that you haven't been around to do a good study. Long enough to do a good study. Like, for instance, with marijuana's been around for years, whereas vaping, it seems to be relatively new. So I think they said, like, well, a 30-year study would not be possible with vaping. Now, what would be your response to that?
Well, there's a very, very simple, almost unscientific study that they did here recently where they took a big glass dome, 2 of them, and they cut a hole out in the top of it and then stuck a cigarette down inside of it and lit it, and then a vacuum basically pulled it through cotton balls, okay? And it went over and over, and they did a pack of cigarettes like this, and then they did the same equivalent with vape. And then you look at the outcome of just the cotton balls. You could take the cotton balls from the cigarette ones with all the tar and everything and literally write your name on a piece of paper with the tar that came off of it. Nicotine is not the culprit here. It's the tar, it's the carbon monoxide, it's the combustion that happens is what's killing people. You could smoke kale, and it would be horrible for you. If you eat kale, it's one of the best things in the world. So it's a matter of the combustion side of it. So, I mean, at the most basic level, common sense should be able to answer that question. As far as the long-term studies, it hasn't happened, but there are a lot of studies that are going on. The FDA's even done it. There's a special on Netflix called e-cigarettes where a guy who never smoked in his life put himself through smoking a cigarette so they could measure the amount of carbon monoxide, the tar, what it did to his system. And he was almost sick as a dog. And I don't know if you guys have ever even just tried a cigarette, but, I mean, it usually makes people turn green and makes them very sick. And why they continue on is almost like it's almost crazy in itself. But
there's some addicting chemicals in there. They put
exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth.
6,000 to 7,000 chemicals.
6,000 to 7,000?
Nobody would smoke if they knew that it was if they knew like what the chemicals were and there was no chemical addiction involved. Nobody would do it. You know.
Jonathan, another thing that people don't realize is that you go to a club and they got the big fog machines. You know what's in that fog? It's the exact same stuff that's in an e-cigarette. It's propylene glycol, it's vegetable glycerin. It doesn't have the nicotine, of course, and it doesn't have the flavoring. But how many times have you gone to a club and they got a big fog show going on the floor or just pumping out? That's all propylene glycol and glycerin. Not only that, the hospitals and the Army back in the 60s used to pump propylene glycol through the ventilation systems because it's actually got anti-germ, microbial effects where it'll kill germs.
Oh.
And you know what? One thing that nobody's ever really kind of put together, and I've been vaping for 7 years. Guess when the last time I got a cold or the flu was?
When?
About 10 years ago.
Wow.
Prior to all of this stuff.
Wow.
So I haven't been sick at all since I started vaping. Not even in the slightest.
And you started
And I don't do
help
flu
people.
shots. I don't do anything pharmaceutical. I take vitamins. I watch what I eat. and I do vape.
And that's why you started the shop, right? You
Yes.
opened a shop to help people.
When I saw what it did for me, I thought like you, Kelly. I've lost my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts. Both of my parents are twins. Both of them, my parents' twins, have both passed away from smoking, from lung cancer. Both of them. I wish the technology was there, and that's the part that upsets me, and that's why I'm so passionate about this, is that they tuck it away. Just like when electric cars came out, oil companies came along and shut them down. Do the research on these different products that came along.
The pattern.
Yes, and then what does it all boil down to?
Money.
It boils down to money.
Yeah.
Solar power. Look
I
at solar power.
that.
That's another new thing that came out. They tried to shut that down. The power companies wanted nothing to do with solar power.
Mhm. It is a pattern.
But they call vaping the single largest disruptive technology ever known to man because it's an $800 billion in tobacco sales. I don't know how many billions. It's $300 billion just in the United States, but the $800 billion in tobacco sales is worldwide sales. The $300 billion in medical-related expenses is just the U.S. The amount of cigarette butts that get put into the environment. It costs big tobacco 5 to 15 cents to manufacture a pack of cigarettes. Okay?
Wow.
5 cents. 5 cents. 5 pennies. And they sell it for anywhere from $5 in some of the southern states to $13.50 for a pack in New York City.
Mhm.
So that's where the profit is. Why do you think they're multi-billion-dollar companies?
So can you tell us what happens to our bodies when we vape? What chemicals, what are we ingesting?
It's a fraction, 5% of what you're ingesting from a cigarette. I mean, in the equivalent. But as far as they're concerned, it's so minimal that in Phoenix, for instance, on a high pollution day, they equate, if you're an outdoor worker, if you're doing landscaping, construction, it is the same as smoking anywhere from 6 to 10 cigarettes, whether or not you're a smoker. The amount of carbon monoxide and all the chemicals that you're breathing in. So,
And can you hurt yourself if you don't set your vape on the right settings?
yeah, you can. I mean, because that's why convenience stores, online, they don't get the instruction. They don't get the support. So if somebody comes into my shop, we cover every aspect of it, the proper way to put in a coil, how to prime the coil properly, how to utilize it properly, when to change it. If people chain vape, like they have like chain smoking where somebody just puff. Well, people do that with vapes as well. And generally that's because they start with too low of a nicotine. Their body's still craving the nicotine, so they're hitting it and what they call a coil, and the coil on the inside has got cotton that absorbs the liquid, it vaporizes from that, and then it resaturates it with the liquid that's in the tank. If they vape too fast, it can dry out that coil, and then it'll burn the cotton, and now they're inhaling what's called formaldehyde. So
that's where they get the formaldehyde.
Exactly. And then a while back, they had another scare about popcorn lung. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that one.
Please explain that, because I get that a lot. People are always saying that.
What's that, Kelly?
I heard about that.
Yeah,
was
popcorn
something
lung.
I heard about
It is a curdling of the inside of the lungs. And what causes that, and there's only been 10 cases in the history of mankind of popcorn lung, okay, 10 individuals. And they named it that because these individuals worked in a microwave popcorn factory where there's a product called diacetyl. And diacetyl is a buttery flavoring that is in a powder format that they spray on the inside of these microwave popcorn bags. So the 10 people that were working in that department not only were heavy smokers, but they were also breathing this diacetyl in massive amounts on a daily basis. They ended up dying from this popcorn lung. Well, then come along that, and if you look, there in some of the older e-liquids, they would add diacetyl to add that buttery flavoring to it, depending on what the flavor was, like in creams and creme brulee and things along that line. They would add a little bit of diacetyl. But what the press didn't tell you is there's 700 times the amount of diacetyl in a cigarette than what's in a vape, and nobody's ever got popcorn lung from just smoking. So if there's 700 times more in smoking, nobody's ever got it. How can you even remotely get it in a vape?
Wow.
So that's the short version of that whole story.
But somebody just hears that, and they just don't even look further. That's what's so frustrating.
But they wanted to discourage people from vaping, so they say, oh, this has got diacetyl. I remember the word diacetyl. Where do I remember that from? Oh, these 10 guys had popcorn lung, and then it just blew up from there. Every person that entered my shop was asking, am I going to die from this diacetyl?
Wow.
And then the test that they did on these vapes initially, like I said, they had a vacuum kind of suction thing that was doing the cigarettes. So it was sucking and sucking and sucking. On a cigarette, it doesn't matter. It just keeps burning down the tobacco. On a vape, though, if it's just sucking, 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 it's going to suck the cotton dry, and then it's going to start burning the cotton on the inside. So now all the stuff that's coming through and being measured is the formaldehyde. So it wasn't even the right type of test. It wasn't like a puff. Somebody can't sit there like a vacuum cleaner and inhale it constantly for, a full minute or 2 minutes. They got to take a breath in between.
It doesn't work like that.
Right. So they're just unfair tests.
It really is unfair. Well, so you think that this could really cause a major problem, because if people can't get their vape the safe way, they will get it any way that they can, which could be the dangerous way.
Exactly. They had a special called A Billion Lives that this guy came out with, this guy in Ohio. He said that by the end of the turn of the next century, 1 billion people will have died from smoking-related illnesses, okay? And that's just almost unfathomable to think of 1 billion. But they said that vaping alone could save the vast majority of those people. Now, there are people that are probably on the verge of too far gone, if you will, from all of the years of smoking abuse. But it can prevent these people from the new people. And like you were talking about, you having to go through this back in your day and your parents being affected by it. Well, this thing was invented in 1965. Had this been around, my uncles would still be around, my aunts would still be around, my grandparents would probably have passed by now. But still, there are so many people that could have been saved by this technology. And even to this day, now they're trying to convert people back to smoking because of the money, because of these bonds, because of their investments.
Yeah.
Wow. That's sad.
And you know what? If you go to PMI.com, that's Philip Morris International, okay? They're the single largest producer of tobacco. Go to PMI.com. First thing that it says is they're designing a smoke-free future. They are promoting vaping. They are promoting a bunch of different products right now. And here's the largest tobacco company in the world. And if you look at their very front page, all about them, they are pushing to get rid of cigarettes altogether. And hallelujah, at least somebody's recognizing it. But the American government can't see that because they want money.
And it has to do with politics. All of these governors and anybody who's running for office, they're going to, the majority of the people are going that way. I better, make my stand and ban it. And it's very political, too.
Well, the governors are trying to ban it because they don't know how they're going to pay these debts that they took out these bonds on from this tobacco settlement that they got greedy on. So if they can't pay it back, their state's going to go into the tank. And Michigan is one of the ones that are hurting the most right now. A lot of it is because of the big car manufacturers there that kind of went down. But I heard that's on its way back up. I mean, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's mostly due to these tobacco bonds that they took out, that they're not going to be able to get loans to build schools, fix the highways, hire employees. So, again, money.
Yeah, the economy is starting to do better, but I don't know about the car industry. But we did get Graphic Packaging. They are closing down like their Atlanta, Georgia, and they're concentrating all of that here in Kalamazoo. So we got a big boost with that. And, we'll have to see on some of the other things, the industries around here. Some things, have closed in the past, and some other things are coming back in, like Gibson Guitar. That's been closed for a while in Kalamazoo, but then they're opening something up in, I think, the Detroit area. So we're getting Gibson Guitar back into Michigan. So that's pretty cool. And there is a guitar company here. So.
Okay. Well, we're about out of time, but thank you for coming on, Terry. This has been great, very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. It has been.
Thank you. And I hope you can come back.
Well,
have you back.
thank you. Thank you so much, Terry. And you really opened our eyes to a lot of things. And I hope answered a lot of questions for you listeners out there. So thank you so much for coming. That was so informative. And I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit trying to expose what's going on.
Well,
the
Kelly and Jonathan and Barbara, if you guys want, I mean, if you guys want to have customers, if there's an interest out there for your listeners, if they want to ask questions, I mean, directly, maybe we can do this another time, you know, and people can write into you guys and if they want to have a question answer session.
And
where
call
we can,
in.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you for always being a part of Life After Happiness. Thanks, Terry, so much.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Well,
Good
thank
night.
you guys for having me.
Part of our family.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Have a great night.
Have a good night.